Dr. Keyonda Smith earned a Doctor of Philosophy in Educational Leadership and Masters in Higher Education from Trident University's College of Education, with a focus on distance education for healthcare students. She continued her postgraduate education, earning a professional doctorate in natural health, concentrating in naturopathy from Trinity School of Natural Health, where she conducted a quantitative study investigating biodynamic agriculture and its impact on urban food deserts. Dr. Smith served as Life University's ADA Accessibility and Accommodation Board member and online learning subject matter expert. As a healthcare disciplined instructional designer, she specializes in designing virtual courses centered on increasing student engagement, universal design principles, and online learning cognition research. With experience in rapid e-learning development, research mastery, and student engagement, Dr. Smith was recently appointed as Maryland University of Integrative Health's first advocate and leader for Digital Learning's evidence-based healthcare research literacy program. Today, Dr. Smith volunteers on several boards and committees and lends her expertise to numerous higher education institutions as a healthcare researcher, online professor, and as an instructional systems designer at Maryland University of Integrative Health. Margot Cheney went to the MDLA conference this year and saw Dr. Smith's presentation at that conference and said it was excellent and that we had to bring her here and see what she had to say. So welcome, Dr. Smith.
Thank you. What a great introduction. So, but some of the images are not going to appear just because it's different versions of Word, and it's just, this is just what it is. So it's nothing that's detrimental to us understanding how important accessibility is in instructor-led training as well as online. And typically I talk about online accessibility because that's where we're faced with the most issues right now. Instructor-led accessibility, I think we tackled that a long time ago, and we're pretty good as far as that's concerned. And to the point where, you know, when I walk in buildings, I'm looking for ramps and things like that. I think we're pretty good on that. But in this presentation, I'm also going to include some things you can do face-to-face, and some additional things as a reminder or refresher. Okay, so we'll talk about the difference between accommodations and accessibility, which a lot of people get confused. They say, well, I don't have to include tags on my images because the learner doesn't have an accommodation. That's not what that means. Accommodations are for individuals who have a identified disability. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about 508 and 504, which is used interchangeably. 504 is where all the lawsuits are happening, like University of Phoenix, things like that. 508 is for federal government only. So we'll talk about a little bit more about the difference between that. And some UDL, Universal Design Instruction. If you are universally designing your courses, you should be accessible. You should have no problem with accessibility. So I'll show you some principles on that as well. And then we'll talk about IoT, some universal design strategies, and then some accessibility ways that you can make sure that your online courses are accessible, just like your face-to-face, if you're teaching online. All right, so accommodations refers to the change made to the course after the course has been already created and a student has identified with a specific disability. It does not mean that you have to change the entire course. It has to be reasonable accommodations. You don't make it so difficult that no other students can take the course except for the student with a disability. So understand that accommodations and accessibility are not the same. Now, accessibility, you shouldn't have to do anything to your course. You should go into your course and it should be ready to go. I have an example here. For example, if you're using videos in your course and the videos require captioning, and there's a student who's hard of hearing, something like that, your video should already have captioning. A student should not have to contact you and let you know, I'm hard of hearing, can you please caption the videos? Because then that's where people start saying it's an accommodation. It's not. It's a right that everyone has access to the video. And I shouldn't have to identify as having a disability to let you know that I wanted to watch the video too. Because you shouldn't have to make an accommodation for something that should already be there. All right, so UDL. We have 3 principles of UDL. Universal design for learning means you're designing for the most ubiquitous amount of learners out there, the most broad range. those who may be differently able in hearing, vision, access to internet, access to computer software, all that. Now, I know when students register for class, they have to have certain things. There's technical requirements. If you're taking an online class, technical requirement, you have to have high-speed internet. Technical requirement, you have to have a computer that has such and such speed. That's fine, but things can happen during the course of their coursework where they've lost access to that, or that is no longer available to them. Your course still should be designed in a way that it's available to those individuals too, the most ubiquitous amount of learners. Well, let's say something happens and their internet is down and they have a test to take. How can we still support that learner during this time? If it's universally designed, it's still going to be available and can be downloaded offline. When internet comes back up, they can submit their work through the Dropbox or however. So that's an example of universal design. We want to reduce the barriers in instruction, just not have it where it only meets the masses of the learners. You don't want to design your courses where the masses are the only ones that are going to benefit from it. All right, so universal design, we have 3 principles. The first principle is engagement. Now, when we say universal design, we want them to have multiple means of learning. So when we say engagement, we want multiple means of engagement. Face-to-face as well as online. So I have some examples. You can provide options for persistence, say pushing the importance of goals and objectives. In adult learning, in higher education, we are really big on the WIFMs, the what's in it for me, and we have to really push that to make students keep coming back to class, because as adults, in order for us to finish our work, we have to know that there's something in it for us. Believe it or not, that's part of universal design, because everyone's here for something different. Not every learner is there just to get a degree. Some learners are there to get a better job. Some learners are there just to actually learn the content. Then you have some learners that are there just to get that piece of paper. So we want to heighten the importance of goals and objectives. And we want to engage every learner, no matter why you're taking the class or the course. Different modes, like multiple ways of representing your information. So an example would be syntax, structure. If you're saying a sentence in one way, give another way of saying it. If you're writing a paragraph to explain something, also, you may want to use it in a visual, so that those who can't get it from reading can get it from hearing it. Just multiple ways of representation of your course content. Don't only give them one option as to how they're going to get the information. So if there's a paragraph that is very important that they really, really need to know, offer them more than one way of knowing that. And then expression, multiple ways of expressing. I mean, I'm not sure about Carroll County, but in general, higher ed has a large amount of ESL or ELL, English language learners, where English is their second language. So giving them a different way of expressing their knowledge, their understanding, is a UDL. So if you say, here's 2 options to take your exam. You can do this multiple choice, or you can write this essay. That's universal design. Then most people probably will do the multiple choice. But then some people might say, I don't do well on multiple choice. Let me explain to you that I know the content. Give them multiple ways. And that's where we come into our individualized learning and our learning pathways. One day we'll get there. So real quick, and you can write this down on a sheet of paper. Which of these 5 is an example of universal design? Accessibility of instruction that benefits all students, that might eliminate or reduce the need for accommodation for students with a disability. So there's more than one. You can just write them down. You don't have to yell out the answers or anything. But which of these is accessibility, and which of these is accommodations? It'll take about a minute, or 30 seconds or so. All right. So 1, 3, and 5 are accessibility, and 2 and 4 are accommodations. So number 1, selecting fieldwork sites that are wheelchair accessible. That should be standard. That should be basic. If your learners have to go out into the field and do something, make sure it's accessible. Providing a note taker, that does not come in standard courses. If a learner needs a note taker, that's an accommodation. That's not accessibility. Making your class notes and outline available digitally. That should come standard. Everyone has a Blackboard classroom. Now, the standard protocol is if you have a face-to-face, you have a Blackboard to accompany that. Not sure if you guys do that yet. And we do it with Canvas, we do it with Cornerstone, all other types too. If you have a face-to-face, we also create a LMS for you. Hey, there's nothing wrong with putting notes and outlines there in case a student can't make his class or have any additional questions. You can tell them, hey, go into the Blackboard Learn classroom and pull it up there. That's universal design, and that's accessibility. A flexible attendance policy is accommodations. That means that the learner has some special need where they can't come to class until 10, but class starts at 9:30. That's not accessibility, that's an accommodation. Open caption videos, like I said before, that should come standard, that should be automatic. Do you guys have any questions about those? So you understand the difference between accommodations and accessibility? So I'll tell you the reason I started this, my daughter's 22 now, but I have a nephew, his name's Montel. He's 7 years old, and he was born with cerebral palsy. And I was in school for naturopathic medicine, and I was also concurrently in a PhD program for higher ed. And I went to his classroom, and right now Montel's 7, and they were teaching him about using computers, and they do co-taught. I don't know if you guys are familiar with K-12, but it's inclusive. Their classrooms are inclusive. They have inclusion, so everyone's together. There's no more special ed kids go over here, and everyone's together. And I noticed that he wasn't able to participate as the other students were. And that's what got me really interested in looking at how can we make everything accessible, whether you're differently able or whether you are able-bodied. How can we make things accessible for them? And Montel is the only, he has a dexterity issue. There's nothing wrong here. If you know how cerebral palsy works, they're fine. Up here, he was upset because he couldn't play on the computer like the other kids because it was not accessible. So that's what got me started. So let's look at 504 and 508. All right, 1998, Section 508 was added to the Rehabilitation Act. It was mainly meant for federal government programs online and how they offer information to the public. So if it's Homeland Security, if it's Health and Human Services, 508 says that everyone on earth should be able to access it, federal government level. 504 says that if you offer it to people and you don't offer it in a format that I can see it, you have taken away my civil rights. And that's when 504 is where the lawsuits happen for us. That's the ACLU EEOC issue, 504. 508 does not typically apply unless you're designing courses for a federal government. But for the rest of us, and most recently, which I thought was pretty interesting, University of Phoenix was sued, and they've been doing online since before online was invented. So I couldn't even imagine. I was confused as to how they just got sued for 504. But apparently a teacher didn't upload a PDF. It was a snapshot of a PDF and not a OCR PDF where it could be read by the screen reader. And I was like, come on, Phoenix, really? They are one of the first premier universities online, and they don't have a QA process in place to not allow these types of things to happen. So this just happened like maybe about a year ago. So that's open and it's all out there on the internet. 504 is where we fall into an issue because that means we take away their civil rights to get instruction the same way as their peers, and that's what's most important. We always talk about 508 because those standards are much higher. You know, I'd rather meet the standards of 508 and make sure that I'm good instead of just worrying about 504. Because if you meet 508, you're good on 504. All right, so instructor-led training. Some things you can do in your face-to-face where you can implement some UDL. I know you've heard this before, but we'll just review it just one more time real quick. Print allows autonomous learning. It's best when coupled with images. And you also want to think about preparing a digital version of your print material. I'm not saying just every worksheet, but if there's some information that's really, really important, there's nothing wrong with just recording it and uploading it to Blackboard. That way you're reading UDL. You can record it with your voice and just read it off and record it to them. Or if you do have in a paragraph, like a print piece of paper for them, if you can possibly include some images, that would be a great benefit to all learners. So now we've met everyone. We've met individuals who are differently abled in hearing, visual, as well as dexterity, all in one shot. Digital media. It allows learners to collaborate. It increases their engagement. And it enables them to know how they want to interact with new content. So when we say digital media, if your learners are assigned to do an activity on a website or somewhere where they have to speak with one another, work in a group, an online group, something like that, that is a way to make sure that all of your learners are being reached. So just keep in mind that digital media for your ILT is something that's very important. Now let's look at some barriers faced by instructor-led learners. What we've been seeing and what some of the research has shown, these learners who are face-to-face, they complain about they're having, those with low or identify with low or no vision, they're saying they're having difficulty reading, taking notes, watching and learning the videos, or interpreting the graphics and charts. Some strategies that we can do to overcome those barriers, of course, we can offer the notes in multiple ways. Hand out the readings, we can offer ebooks. They can get a note taker and assistant, that's an accommodation. And also just talking to the student and see how they learn best. That's a UDL practice. If there's a learner who's expressing an issue, don't say, well, this is the way I teach and this is what it is. Ask them, how do you learn best? And if there is another way that they learn best, UDL says you might want to incorporate that into your instructional strategy.
I have a question.
Sure.
I was told that there are some fonts that can't. What are they? Like, which one should you use?
For example, I'm using Arial 12. Well, this is Arial 22 font. My favorite for online. If you're offering information online, the learners want to be looking at it online. Please use Verdana. You can use Verdana, Calibri, Arial. My favorite, Times New Roman as well. The reason I like Verdana the best is because it's so equally spaced that it's the spacing of Verdana that we don't get any complaints about. And then there's also dyslexia font for those who identify that need an accommodation. There's actually a dyslexia font for them. Yeah.
What is it?
It's font made for individuals who read letters in different ways.
And basically, just the way that the letters are shaped, it's so that each letter is very unique. I used it, I interned in Howard County last year, and that was one of the things that we were told to use.
What's the name of the font?
Dyslexia.
It's called dyslexia font.
Called dyslexia.
Yep.
All right.
And it's,
All right.
Yep. So
It's
it's
literal. Every letter
and
is
it's a free
intricate.
download.
Okay.
Yes, and every letter is intricate, so that is something we can accommodate. That's not an accessibility. Now, I would not incorporate dyslexia font in all my courses. If I were to do anything in all my courses, it would be Verdana. Just because Verdana, and if you have to use something less than Verdana, just use a higher number, like 12 points. Verdana is good at 11. If you use Times New Roman at 10 or 11, that can be difficult for some people. If you have to use Times New Roman, you have to use go up to 12. Calibri, go up to 12, and use your header body, but go up to 12. So yeah, there are different fonts for different issues, but for accommodations, I would stick with Verdana 12. So those learners who identify with limited mobility and dexterity, look at some of their issues. They said that their poor pacing of the workload, which means they can't keep up. They can't keep up with what's going on because of how they're differently able. The classroom design makes it difficult to see the board or to sit for long periods of time. Some of them have side effects of their medication, so they may be falling asleep and not being able to pay attention for a long amount of time. So they have said that has been a barrier. And then the use of computers and tools that are not accessible, of course. So some strategies, electronic notes once again. Pausing long enough to allow students to ask questions, which I'm not doing today, so I only have an hour. So I'm not practicing that today because we did not have time. And then allowing students to stand or walk around, and that's for obvious reasons, if they're having side effects of medication or if they can't sit for long periods of time. Some barriers faced by instructor-led courses with individuals who are differently able in hearing. Background noise. And some of us work fine with noise and chatting. We're all working in groups and we're all talking. Some people can't do that, and because of how they're differently able with their auditory preferences. Multiple tasks such as writing notes, viewing videos, completing tasks are difficult when trying to lip read or use sign language, and that's an accommodations issue. New terminology, complex concepts may be difficult for them to comprehend just due to hearing. They just can't hear it. It's a new word. They're not used to hearing that word, so they don't know what that word is. So the way that we can reduce those barriers, we always want to make sure there's enough light so that they can read or see the interpreter if there's an accommodation. Write new terminology on the board. Some individuals who are differently able in hearing, they understand words because they're used to hearing them all the time. They don't have to understand the word because they heard it. They understand the word because your lips are saying it. So if you're saying something brand new, they're not going to understand what that is. So any new terminology, things like that, if you have and I would say implement this as a UDL, any new words, write it down for the learners. Write it on a board, bring it up on overhead. Also explain new concepts with visuals. That helps those who may have hearing impairments. And if they have an accommodation, you can assign a student assistant here, note taker. Accommodations offices usually take care of that. So virtual, online, how many individuals in here teach online? Okay, good, so I know how detailed to get. So I'm gonna talk to you about Brad. Brad's pretty famous right now. He has cerebral palsy, just like my nephew. So Brad is he's a junior. He's a junior right now. And he has some obvious dexterity issues because he has cerebral palsy. But he is very sharp, and he uses what's called a switch device to take his classes. He takes 90% of his classes online. And the way he uses his switch device, which made him pretty famous in the UDL environment, is because of how fast he is with it. Like how he goes from his Word document to how he goes to the LMS. And I mean, he does all this with the click of his knee. So, and I thought that, everyone is like so impressed with him because you don't have to slow down instruction for him. He's just, the way he got Brad's in his 20s, he's been using switch devices forever. Switch device you can put anywhere. He puts his on his knee because his right knee is the one he has the best control over. But he is a prime example of how some learners, if your class is designed with UDL in mind, Brad will have no problem in navigating it. No problem at all. You won't even know that he has cerebral palsy. He should not have to call into the school and say, I have cerebral palsy, can you please not have the manual 90 pages, because I cannot navigate a 90-page manual. That should be a UDL thing. If you have an attachment, he should not have to call into the school and express that he needs an accommodation for something that should be accessible to him anyway. We know it's poor instructional strategy to have an attachment that's 90 pages. That's just not a good strategy. That means that because what you're telling the learner is, first of all, you're wasting a lot of my time. As an adult learner, I want to know why am I reading 90 pages? What am I supposed to get out of this? Whatever I'm getting out of these 90 pages, just give it to me. Don't make me read 90 pages because first of all, we don't have enough time for that. And as an adult learner, what's in it for me? So Brad is a prime example. If you get a chance, if you could YouTube him and see him use it, it's amazing.
What if that big document was, here's my entire notes packet for the entire semester? These are all the notes you're going to take all semester, and it's a lot more than 90 pages.
If it's accessible and it's indexed and it has a table of contents, I say go for it. What I've seen is 90-page document that says, here's the background on Christopher Columbus. I'm just using an example. Here's the background. It has nothing to, it's not notes, it's not part of the instructional strategy, it's just information. What about Christopher Columbus in these 90 pages do I need to know? And as adult learners, probably not a lot. It's very few, there are very few things that, as adult learners that we need 90 pages for, unless, like Jen said, it's notes or a resource. A resource, but not as part of something that's going to be assessed. We're not going to assess you on a 90-page manual. If so, then you have a poor instructional strategy. So some individuals who are differently able with low or no vision online, they have difficulty in recognizing document components, especially if there's no alt text on tabs. I know y'all just came out of Blackboard. And
I don't know what alt tags are.
Oh, yeah, and you know what? The thing about alt text is it's so new that you gotta be really good at it to make it work. But we're gonna keep talking about it. So if you place an image on a page on your online course, and you write and I hover over it, it should tell me something. that means my screen reader can read it. If you place an image on your page and you don't have an alt text, as a person with low or no vision, my screen reader is going to skip it. Meaning I'm going to miss the opportunity to get whatever I was supposed to get from that image, if that image was important. If that image was not important, there's a quotations that you use and it'll say decorative image. Your screen reader will read back to you decorative image. If it's an image that shows something in action, you have to tell the image that it's doing that so that the learner knows that something's happening in that image. Otherwise, the learner is going to know that they missed something. They're going to say, what did I miss? Because you never tagged the image. So I don't know I didn't even know something was there. Limited mobility dexterity, cluttered layout, some little tiny small radio buttons I've seen in some Word documents and some PDFs. Think about your dexterity limited individuals. Drag and drops, interactive objects, drag and drops are not accessible, right? So if you have a Adobe Captivate or Storyline, Articulate Storyline, drag and drop interaction, please offer that in another way. Just leave that, don't have to take it out, but also give learners to maybe do a matching, because that's all a drag and drop is. Let them do matching, give them the option. Don't just have them do interactions because that's not accessible. And then cognitive impairments we have to keep in mind. So think about moving objects, your layout, how the course navigates, no flashing lights, and how we use color. Reds, greens, blues, because there are individuals who just can't see that color. So here's some assistive software that's typically used. JAWS, which is the most popular. JAWS is a screen reader, and it also has Braille capabilities. So if you have a distance learner who's utilizing JAWS, your course has to be accessible for them to get all the information out of it. Meaning that your alt text tags, your contrasting, all of those things have to be where they are supposed to be, which should be just a normal practice. And they should have no problem in reading navigating your course. I don't feel that online learners who are limited, low or no vision, should have an accommodation. I can't think of a reason why we need to accommodate them. If your course is accessible, we don't need to do, you shouldn't even know you have a blind student in your class. When someone says, oh yeah, I've had 3 blind students over the last 6 years. I was teaching at a military university, and a lot of them were veterans. So they had cognitive impairment and visual. Oh, why do you know that? You should not know that if your course was accessible. This is an online school. These are not learners who sat in front of you. You knew they had low or no vision. You knew they had cognitive impairment because they had to call up to the school and ask for an accommodation. Technically, it's against the law. They can sue you. Window eyes is another one, very similar to JAWS. JAWS does not like Apple, which sucks. Yeah, JAWS is good. I use it when I had QA courses. I use JAWS. It's free for 40 minutes. So if you download it on your computer, download it and run through your course real quick with JAWS. And it'll tell you a lot of information. And it's free. It doesn't cost anything. Now, after 40 minutes, you have to log out and just log back in. But if you want to purchase the program, it's about $1,000. Same thing with Window Eyes. Window Eyes is about $1,000 as well.
Question?
Sure.
Can those handle equations?
Yes, absolutely. JAWS and Window Eyes can read an equation with no problem. And it reads anything that's parenthetical. It reads equations with no issues. I would highly recommend if you're teaching online to please download JAWS and just run through your course with it. Window Eyes, another good one, but JAWS is better. Some additional ones, if you absolutely have to use Apple, we have Apple VoiceOver. That is probably your best bet. Unfortunately, your learners may not be using that, and it may miss some, it may not. I don't know why Apple won't give JAWS a chance, or why JAWS won't give Apple a chance, but if you're using the Apple product, which I cannot QA courses using Apple VoiceOver, just because there's no free trial, you just have to purchase it, and it's too expensive for me to QA every course that I do with that. But that is an option for your individuals who may be using Apple products. And I have printouts of these, so you'll have those as well. All right, some assistive devices. Some of your learners that are distant, they could be using touch screens or a PC touch screen. So if they're using a touch screen, and think about if you want them to write an essay, offer them another way to express that they know the information.
What if it's a writing course?
Yeah, offer them the ability to articulate. If it's a writing course and they have to type up something online, offer another way, not saying you don't have to do it, no. If they can do it, do it. But offer the whole course, it has to be ubiquitous, the whole course, another way of portraying that they know this information.
Okay, but if you're teaching the skill of writing, let's pretend it's a piano course.
Oh, online? Oh, that would suck.
What I'm asking is, that's a composition, and that is, you have to generate words in a coherent fashion.
They'll have to use speech to text, which is like Dragon. It's similar programs like
then
Dragon.
the instructor should know, though.
They probably will know. They probably will know because when you're using speech to text software similar to Dragon, there's going to be errors, there's going to be issues possibly, and then you're going to find out that, okay, there's something going on. And that is a unique situation. There are some courses where if you're using a PC touchscreen because of dexterity issues and your speech-to-text software is not on the up and up, it's going to be a lot of errors, and that's something you may just want to inform your instructor about. But the instructor should not have to accommodate the entire course just for you, because your course should offer another way to get that information. The head wand didn't show up, but some individuals who have paralysis, maybe from the neck down, or not even paralysis, maybe they don't have good control of dexterity from the head down. They use a head wand to navigate their online courses. And so if you have a 90-page manual and you're navigating that, what could happen? What do you see happening? Fatigue. I'll be tired. So, table of contents, references, things like that. There are individuals who use head wands that for a multitude of reasons, and most of the time it's because of things like Parkinson's and other issues where we've seen head wands being used. So just be cognizant that those individuals should not need an accommodation. The course still should be accessible. This is a switch device, same thing Brad was using. You can use those, they can use those anywhere on their wheelchair. Some individuals use it on their head, you'll see. Some learners can use their elbow, whatever they have good control over. And what a switch device does, it switches between different programs. So they'll switch from, say, 1 click is Blackboard and 3 clicks is Word, and that's how it works. That means navigation has to be intuitive. That means don't have them guessing, because if I'm doing this, trying to figure out where am I, and they get lost in the course. So be careful about navigation. Think about if you were an individual who had to use a switch device, how that course would look to them. So don't have them coming in and out the course, going to websites, going to here, clicking around websites, and then finding their way back into the course. Try to keep them in the course as much as possible, without interfering with your instruction. This didn't come out, but sip puff navigation devices. A sip and puff is where they sip, and then they puff, and it moves their wheelchair. That's what we mostly see. Remember Christopher Reeves? I think he had it. Well, sip puff works the same way as switch devices. This is for individuals who have no movement. That means quadriplegics usually. All they can do is inhale and exhale. They can navigate a course inhaling for mouse movements, exhaling for double clicks. They can also move the tongue. Their tongue can move the sip puff device as a mouse. So those things are available. But if you look on YouTube, look at some of the sip puff navigation devices that are out there that people are using. And this gentleman, which was a really good, I have the link here. I want you to see this video. I actually put it in the notes for you guys. See how he uses, and as you can't even see it, but he has 3 computers. And he's navigating all 3 computers using sip puff device, just sipping and puffing, sipping and puffing. So once again, think about navigation. Key accessibility components in your online. Color, we know about that, right? Red, greens, and blues don't convey important information using red, greens, and blues. Don't say something like test tomorrow in all red, because it's not accessible. Try to stay away from greens and some blues and conveying important information, just because some individuals can't see that. Multimedia, think about your time-based and your synchronized media. If you have multimedia you have 30 seconds to complete this assignment, you might want to rethink that strategy, unless it has something to do directly with that course. Because some individuals who have dexterity, mobility issues, it's going to take them longer. And they shouldn't fail the course because your course is not accessible. And I just included that one recently. So be careful about time-based and synchronized media that has a restriction on how quick you have to finish it.
What if you're timing a test or a quiz online because you're trying to keep them out of the textbook and then the quiz?
That's an accommodation. That means they need what's called additional time.
Yeah.
They have to get an accommodation for that. Yeah. But for your multimedia, it should not be an accommodation because that's not an assessment.
Right.
Yeah, now if there's an assessment that's time-based, oh, absolutely. The learner's like, hey, it's gonna take me longer than an hour. Okay, now you need an accommodation. Keyboard accessibility, make sure your course can be navigated with only the keyboard. Some individuals are only using the keyboard to navigate courses because they can't use the mouse. So think about that. Navigation, once again, we went through some examples how your learners can be affected by courses that are not, you can't navigate because it's all over the place. It's sending learners out of the course and into the dark abyss of the internet, and then they can't find their way back. So be careful with navigation. All right, so headings. None of my images showed. Jeez. In your Word document, please use headings. You know how a Word document, you may have introduction, use your headings, because screen readers, what it'll say is new paragraph. It'll let the learner know that something's happening. If there's a title or an introduction, and you put it under a heading 2, or the screen reader will actually say title, whatever title, and then it'll say for heading 2, main section, and then it'll tell the learner subsection under the main section. It'll actually tell the learner that, so they can get not a visual, it's hard to see what you don't see, but so they can get some organization in their head as to what's happening. If you don't use headers and you just type out your whole document and use bold and underline and those features, it's just going to say bold. It's going to say underline, but what does that mean? You have everything, if you do something to your text in your course, use a heading, apply headings in your Word documents as well. Don't just type it out and don't hit enter and hit space. Use the native features that's included in Word because screen readers will automatically let the learner know what's happening. Text boxes did not show up. Good, because you should not be using them. Do not use text boxes. What it looks like to a screen reader is an image. And that is horrible because I've seen Word documents attached where it's been the whole test was typed up in a text box. How did you even do that? Like, how did you do that? But it's not accessible. It'll just say image or it'll say missing image and the learner won't know what's there. So don't use text boxes. So I'm kind of glad that didn't show up. Fonts, we talked about briefly, my favorite, Verdana, but be aware of the font size and type. Calibri, body is fine. Verdana times New Roman, go up a little bit to 12. But be aware of your font sizes in your course as well as in your attachments. Spaces between sentences and paragraphs, do not hit enter twice. If you're starting a new paragraph, don't enter tab. Don't do that. Because what's going to happen is, my screen reader is going to say, space, tab. And it's going to do it through the whole document. So if you have a document that's, say, 4 or 5 pages, and you enter 8 times, it's going to say space, enter. That is horrible. Use the native features of 1.5, or if you need to use your tab, for your new paragraphs. Don't just hit enter to go to a new line, because the screen reader is going to read all those blank spaces. And if you're skipping to put a chart in or something, and you enter all the way down and you start that new paragraph underneath the chart, the screen reader is going to say enter, all the way down to that new paragraph. So use the native feature. You have a question?
So will the screen readers work for PDF files also, or just Word documents?
PDF, absolutely. Now, people try to get around it because the thing about PDF, we still have a lot more work to do with Adobe. You have to have Acrobat Pro, which kind of sucks. People have tried to convert accessible Word documents into accessible PDFs. Not everything goes over. I'm not going to say that that's not a good try, though. If you don't have Acrobat Pro, which is fine because it's expensive, I think it's $100 a year. If you don't have it, and this is all you can do is make your Word document accessible and convert it over to PDF, go for it. It's better than doing nothing. But Acrobat Pro has an accessibility checker that's built in. And that's your best bet, but yeah. Color contrast. Federal guidelines say 4.5 to 1. Which one of those you think would be federally okay? You would think, wouldn't it? But what colors are being used? It's green. Yeah. So none of these. None of these work. Federal government's 4.5 to 1. I do have a resource for you guys to go and do accessibility, the contrast checkers. I do have the information for you guys.
Oh, wait, what does it mean, 4.5 to 1?
Meaning
What is-
foreground to background.
But what?
So
4.5 what's? One what?
It could be either way. It could be your background could be 4.5 and your front be 1.
But 4.5 what?
It's a
What's being
ratio.
measured? A
That-
ratio
that-
of
yeah.
what?
Ratio of what?
Contrasting, color
Okay,
contrasting.
contrast.
There's an
Color
actual chart.
intensity, color value?
It's just, I'm not sure if it's looking at opacity. I'm not sure if it's looking at, I'm not sure about what individual identifiers that program looks at,
Okay.
but they want those numbers for the 4.5 to 1, and there's an easy way to check it. And it's super easy. Just make sure it's not using the red and green. And you just want a good, strong background to your foreground and vice versa. So if you have a black background, which I advise against, and a white foreground, it'll still come up as 4.5, but it's not user-friendly. So usually, of course, you want the white on black, usually. But try to stick around that number, and I have more information on that. And here's another information, another slide showing inaccessible slide versus inaccessible slide. This one's inaccessible, obviously, because there's a lot going on. A lot of distraction. The color contrasting is not 100% where it needs to be. And the accessible slide, it is there. It's accessible. It can be read. It can be read. I'm not a fan of the color, the rust color. I'm not a fan of, but it can still be read by a screen reader or an individual who has limited low vision.
I'm just curious about like the LMS systems that have, we were just talking about Crocodile where you're grading their papers. And if you want contrast between their writing and your comments, so you want to use it, when are the LMS, like everything going to catch up so that they don't offer things that aren't accessible?
Crocodile's going out of business. Didn't Crocodile just get sold like a week ago? Did anybody hear about Crocodile? Okay, I know I'm not crazy. I need to double check on this, but Crocodile is going away.
Okay.
Yeah, Crocodile.
But even anything
But yeah,
in
I
any
can
of
see
the
what you're saying.
LMS systems.
I don't know if somebody can Google that real quick, but I believe Crocodile is going away soon.
What do you mean going away and not?
I don't know if they got bought by someone or if they lost their contract with Blackboard, or Blackboard is not supporting Crocodile anymore. Yeah, if you guys can Google that real quick, and it may be because of accessibility issues.
Box bought Crocodile.
What is it?
New Box View, the New Box View and EOL.
They're changing it.
Box to revamp document viewing with Crocodile acquisition.
Yep, okay, so somebody, I knew I'd heard something about they're going away, they're not accessible. And that, I mean, that may be an issue with why they're being sold or bought or whatever, but it's still not their responsibility. It still falls on us.
But what happens if the options are, like what if you want to see something, you don't want to embed your comments in their black letters right on their papers, what choice do you have?
You can attach it in a Word document.
But what other colors? I'm saying what other color could you use to make a contrasting color?
Black and white is the best,
Okay.
but any dark blues,
So you're
dark,
saying like
dark,
your notes don't actually put it in their
just
paper?
don't, yeah, just put it, and I'm not sure if that was the reason why Crocodile is having an issue or not.
Okay.
But just try to stick with really dark letters over a white background.
Okay.
Good question. Alt text tags, what Jen was asking about. Here's an image of an earth, and I put, this is in a Word document, but even if it's in an attachment or if it's in your course, and you don't have an alt text, when I scroll over it, it's not gonna say anything. If you do an alt text, it'll say the earth as seen from outer space. That's all, so the learner knows. And it'll say image of the earth as seen from outer space. It'll
And
just,
so, would that be not just for photos like that, but also graphs, charts, tables?
yes, yes. I would suggest do not do a copy, don't do a picture of a graph. You see what I'm saying? Okay, so if you're using Blackboard and you have a graph or a chart you want to put into your course, don't put it in as an image. My suggestion, use the native Blackboard features to create a chart. If you must put it in as an image, we have a paragraph explaining what that image is. And then I will also put it in alt text. Not only because that helps individuals using screen readers, but it also helps individuals who, universal design for learning. People who may look at a graph and like, I don't know what I'm looking at. If you put it in words, it also helps them. If you can use the native Blackboard features for your charts and your tables, that is the most accessible because your screen reader will say, table 1, column 1, this, table 1, column 2, that. It'll tell you. If you put it in as an image, the screen reader's gonna say image of a table. And that's all the learner's gonna know. So that's why it's always good to even explain to the learners in a paragraph what's happening in the table.
But what if it's their job to interpret what's happening in the table?
Well, you can let them know, but you have, when you're teaching, when you're instructing them on how to do that, right? Your instructional strategy, you have to first tell them how that can be done. Yeah, and then if you want to test them and assess them on it, hey, what's happening in this table? This is a table of column 1 reads this, row 1 reads that. You can tell them what's in the table. What does this mean? Or what does that add? You can ask them then. But during the instructional strategy, you definitely want to tell them, this is a table of this, so they can know what they're looking at. Alt text has a lot to do with context. Read this paragraph here real quick. Okay. So the instructor is teaching about this, that's circled in red. And this is what this image is. So you want to ask yourself, if the image contains content such as words or imager performs a function such as a hyperlink, sorry for the typo, does this image is not a hyperlink. Does this image have words in it? How would you alt tag that? Just blank, or just do the quotes. You would just quote it. Because this is not giving us any information, the information's in the paragraph. That's good enough, because an unsighted user probably has never seen it, may have seen it and just lost their sight over time, whatever the case may be. That image does not do anything different than what that paragraph does. If it did, then we want to differentiate. If no, just Earth, image of Earth, or quotes. No need to state image of, because that'll be redundant. The screen reader says image of already. So you don't have to type in image of Earth, because it'll say image of Earth, it'll say image of Earth. So you can just say Earth or whatever. It's pretty redundant, or you can just put your quotes for blank.
But if you leave it blank, wouldn't some people wonder, oh, there's an image, I wonder what it's an image of?
It'll say decorative.
Oh.
Yeah. For an unsighted individual, it'll say, I think I don't know if JAWS did the update yet, but it'll say like decorative image. It'll be blank. Or it may say, I'm not sure the verbiage, but they will know that it's not anything they need to know. And that goes for our logos and stuff like that too. That's why that's important. If yes, let's just say this image gave us some information that was not presented in that paragraph, that is not a hyperlink. Then your alt text would say pretty much what it is. The narrow strip of land that lies between the Caribbean and Pacific Ocean, linking North and South America. It contains the country of Panama and the Panama Canal. Just tell them what's happening in the image. If that paragraph didn't give us that information. Now keep in mind, I put please note at the bottom, if it does not contain content or performs a function like a hyperlink, then the alt text attribute is not necessary. Just use your quotes. Don't waste your time. Multimedia alternatives. We have videos, back it up with audio, back it up with video, as well as documents. Synchronize. You can either give them a hyperlinks if they have an accommodation, sign language, interactive elements, or give them another way of doing it if it's synchronized. Meaning everyone's having to do something at the same time. Just provide alternatives for these types of multimedia. Don't only give them one way to look at or hear something. Give them multiple ways. And asynchronous interactions, textual representation with maybe hyperlinks or something like that. But keep in mind, don't give them only one way to do that drag and drop. Keyboard accessibility. Check that all functions can be accessed using only one keyboard or a keyboard interface. So some courses may tell the learner, as you can see to the left, there's Microsoft Paint, to do this in Paint. Well, you can't if you are using a keyboard. You have to give them another way of doing that assignment. If you're telling them to draw something digitally, virtually, you have to provide another way for your course. And you can just say, here's an accessible alternative. You don't have to say, here, I'm giving you two separate options, because of course learners are gonna go for the easier option. You can say, here's an accessible option to use. So looking at that, of course, we don't want that to be the only way that they can convey that they know the information. Here's an accessible format, because this can be done with a keyboard. If they have to do any graphing, if they have to do any type of drawings, make sure that it can be linear. Make sure it can be circles. If it's something that has to be freehand drawing, that is not accessible. That's the only assignment. It needs to have an accessible assignment accompanying it. Margins did not show up, but my advice on margins, left align everything. Do not use justification, center justified, like Chicago, Chicago style or something. Don't do that, because screen readers don't understand the spaces in between. So if you're using center justification, and I wish it showed up, but the spaces in between can be sometimes 2 or 3 spaces. And the screen reader is going to get really confused, and it's going to say space, 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 space. It's not going to always look at that. Left align everything. Everything goes to the left. Because screen readers are trained, or they're designed to read from left to right here in America. Overseas, it's different. Our screen readers, the American English versions, are left to right. Hyperlinks. This is not accessible as a hyperlink in your resources page. And I cannot tell you how many resources page I've seen where hyperlinks are like a paragraph. Because you want to know what the screen reader is? What's the screen? Anybody want to tell you what the screen reader is going to say? So it's going to say HTTPS // www. It's going to read off that. The learner doesn't know where it's going. They don't even know if they need to click on it. I don't forget what the first part of the HTTP was. It's too long and they don't forget. So make sure that your hyperlinks are descriptive. So this is the same hyperlink, just make it a short link. So when the learner hovers over it, the screen readers say hyperlink to NRC PDR resources. Oh good, I need to go there. Because at first, I didn't know what was going on. And we see this a lot in the resources. So be careful with how you guys are uploading your resources.
I'm just going to say, isn't it useful to say, click here before the link? Because then that cues them that those next words are the place for the clicking.
You could say click, because I'm going to tell you what screen reader is going to say. It's going to say hyperlink. So you could, if you want to say click, and then you have this short link, that might work. The screen reader will say click NRC, but it's not going to say click here for. It'll say click here for, and then it'll say hyperlink NRC PDR, and that's fine. But I'm going to show you an example of where that can go wrong. Here's an image that is a hyperlink. Remember the earlier image I showed you? It wasn't a hyperlink. Let's just say this is. Your alt text would say, click on this image to learn more regarding the panel link. Just tell them why they're clicking on that hyperlink. You don't have to have any information. Just tell them why they're clicking on it. This is not accessible. Why?
Justification.
Yes, that's one a lot of people miss. What else? Long links and what else? And we're going to talk about that. So justification, the long links, of course, are an issue. With click here, you want to be very careful because you see what a hyperlink is. It's not there, and that's what we're seeing. We're seeing, so they'll say, for the New Deal plan, click here, and they'll make you click here to hyperlink. So be careful with how you use it. If you want to say click here for the NDP, make sure this is your hyperlink. And that's where, or either it'll say, they'll make here the hyperlink. Just because we're used to seeing that in non-accessible websites. It'll say click here for more information. But what I'm hearing on the screen reader is click HTTP : whatever that long paragraph is that I got lost in, and I don't even know why I'm clicking there. So once again, you still have an accessibility issue. If you must absolutely use it, make sure that you're linking the correct word. And you'd be surprised how hard that can be. Did not show up, but
So it's, that last point, so it's better to avoid the word here entirely. Click NDP for more information.
there you go. You'd be surprised how hard that is. Make sure that NDP is the hyperlink though. And that's the only thing, because they say click here and it's here is the hyperlink, or click here is the hyperlink. It's horrible. So here is a accessible version of that saying, this was an accessible version of that paragraph, but it's
Okay,
not
this
showing up.
actually though illustrates something. You can attempt to do everything right, and people have different computer systems, and things don't show up.
Yeah, absolutely.
So are you out of compliance when your good efforts are not received by the other person's computer, or?
Absolutely, and I'm gonna tell you what that comes down to. That comes down to instructional design. So if the instructor says this must be open in Microsoft version, whatever, and the learner doesn't have that, and they have a different version, you've done your job. If you do not warn the user that this only should be open in a certain version, and you just say open this in PowerPoint, you have not done your job. That's an instructional design issue. Make sure that my version is different than you guys' version. You know, and that's just because Jen didn't tell me. No, because it was different. But if this was a course, she would put in her syllabus or in the assignment, this must be open in version whatever. If you don't have version whatever, you may not be able to do this or see that if you want to add that. But you tell them what's going to happen. You tell them your expectations. Setting expectations is a big, huge deal in online learning. Accessibility checker, there's one in Word. It does it for you. A lot of people don't know that. And it's free. And it's pretty accurate. It's pretty good. It doesn't catch everything because it does not catch descriptions of alt text. So if you have a Word document that you want to open real quick and just run your accessibility checker, this is how you do it. Go to File, Info, Check for Issues, Check Accessibility, and it'll show all kinds of cool stuff that you're like, darn, I did not realize that I had pressed the space bar 200 times, and I have seen documents. I've seen documents with 200 spaces. That means a learner has to sit there and listen to 200 spaces. I'm talking about veterans, not only people these are individuals who may be low, no vision for a multitude of reasons. They have to sit through 200 spaces. So if you get a chance, please file, info, check accessibility. And I also have that as a resource for you. Here is some of the primary points that accessibility will give you. I know we run out of time. It'll tell you your errors, it'll give you some warnings, and it'll tell you how to even fix it. So if you have Word attachments or Word documents in your course, this is a good accessibility checker. PDF, I'm going to tell you now, if you don't have Acrobat Pro, it's not going to do you any good. There are free ones though, and I got links for the free ones. I have some resources for the free ones for you guys. There's free PDF accessibility checkers. They're not as good as Acrobats, but it's a start. All we can do is try. All right, so here are some resources here. I gave you the website to where you can get the slide deck. I printed out the slide deck. I also have all the checklists for Excel, Word, PowerPoint, and PDF and multimedia. I have checklists so that you can go through and look at your courses and see if you identify with any of these components on the checklist. Any questions? We have 1 minute. I'm trying to rush through it. You guys have any questions? None?
I do. So you're the director of course design at UIH. So in addition to the checklist that you're providing to us, what other resources do you provide in your capacity for your faculty there for them to do everything that they can to make sure that they're in compliance?
We have a QA department, so we cannot train our faculty on being ADA compliant to the level that our instructional designers are. I'm over a team of instructional designers. Of course, they have a different level of ADA. Yeah, and we have a QA department. So the QA will go through the course, identify some of the accessibility issues, make sure the instructor gets the QA report, and repairs it. And we don't expect them to come in the door knowing this level of accessibility.
So as a practical matter then, there's no way that you can examine every course every semester. Do you go through some kind of cycle? Do you have a base course for like Math 120 and English 101 and you review that and go from there? Or how does that logistics work?
We would be so happy to have a real format for that, but no one does. So what we do is every 3 years we do course revisions. If the course has been running for 3 years, it automatically goes up for revision. For new courses, we have to just do it from scratch, and we do have a template course that faculty can go and mess around with, mess up, play with. But we have instructional designers that actually build the courses for them in the LMS. But there's a caveat to that, because throughout the semester, the faculty can change whatever they like, because we don't have lockdown on our courses. So that is an issue, and that's because I go back into the course and learner says, this video isn't working. And, okay, because faculty went in and did something different. They changed the iframe on a video. And I try to explain to faculty, if you're going to do that, come through the IDs, tell the ID to do it for you. Because now, the video been running and the learners aren't able to see it because we are wanting to be academically free, and we don't want to lock down the courses once it's been built. But that's something we may need to do. All right, any more questions? All right, so I'm all done. So if you guys want to